Just letting you guys know in advance, this is going to be a long video, so if that's not your thing, don't yell at me. I am at a point now where I feel like I'm finally comfortable enough to make this video because I feel like all of the relevant information that can come out about the situation, at least for now, is out, and it's finally a good time to just say my piece and move on. I want to throw in a little disclaimer. If I'm talking quieter, it's because it's 4 a.m. when I'm adding this little piece in, but after some of our friends started making their videos on the subject, I noticed that in the comment sections, a lot of people were kind of speaking for Emily, saying that anybody else giving their own experience through all of this as her friend is taking away from Emily's moment. So I messaged Emily to ask her if she felt like that was the case in any way, and if she did, I would hold off on making my video or re-elaborate my direction that I was going with. And she had this to say: so everybody, if you could kind of chill out. None of us are competing with the other on who is the most hurt. I think we've all had a pretty sour taste in our mouth over this whole situation, and we've all been burned in some way. I just want to put that there's a little disclaimer. Back to the video. There were some people who were very pushy in the situation, with those close to Shannon making videos immediately upon finding out this information, which in a way I understand, but in another sense, I feel like I need to elaborate on the fact that because we were all friends with her, we wanted to wait until all of this information was out. Because I think I can speak for all of us when I say that none of us want to sit here and make multiple videos about the situation. We just want to do like a one and done. We want to not talk about this anymore because this is somebody who we all consider to be very close to us, and it's not something that is fun to talk about. Hindsight is a really funny thing. Now that all of this has happened, we have a group chat with our friends where we've been kind of piecing little things together the last week. I can see so many red flags and signs building up to this before everything came out. Whether it be how distant she was in the group chat, but then all of a sudden, a few days before finding out this information, she started love bombing us again and telling us how much she loved us and how much she appreciated us, to the video that Ready to Glare posted where she says that Shannon sent her flowers a couple of days before this happened, and to her post about being hacked on YouTube, but the hacker took absolutely nothing from her channel and didn't really mess with anything at all. I've already had to scratch and plan this video out multiple times in one day due to how quickly the story was developing, so if this isn't quite up to speed by the time you get here, I'm sorry. Emily Artful has released a video regarding Creepshow art and her allegedly being harassed and stalked by Shannon, which is Creepshow's name, and her husband Anthony for nearly a decade. I am saying alleged to avoid any legal discourse and due to Emily herself following the same guidelines in her video. While I personally believe that Shannon and Anthony more than likely did all of these things, there is technically no conclusive evidence that has been publicly presented. From a legal standpoint, there isn't one definitive message that confirms without a shadow of a doubt that Shannon was behind all of this. So it's up to you as a viewer to look at all the things being presented and form your own opinions about it. Ashley from the future here, by the time I started recording this, I realized more information that would be of use to Emily, and I sent it to her. So we ended up talking a bit and finding more twists and turns in the story, and I'm going to be adding that in later. Okay, back to the point. Because how close to home this hits, as one of Shannon's former friends, I don't want to make multiple videos about this. Usually I don't like making lengthy content, but if I can keep it to one video and not have to dig a knife in a little bit deeper, I'll take it. I think everyone that has been following along with this ever-developing situation has been chewing their nails down with anxiety awaiting Emily's upload ever since she made this tweet last week. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will give you a brief backstory in just a bit, and I will be linking her video down below. Her video is about 2 hours long, and if I went over the entire thing, this would be even longer, so I suggest you settle in with some snacks. I specify to watch it in its entirety for full context because I know that the first half is kind of just explaining her relationship with Anthony, Shannon's husband, over the years, and it might be easy to click off of it if you feel like there's not like sufficient content regarding Shannon, so I definitely suggest watching in its entirety. I feel like this video is full of disclaimers. My take on this is not to be taken as gospel. This video is not meant to tell you how to feel or to solely follow what has led me to my own personal conclusion. If you have reservations, that is your right, and I am not telling you how to feel. This video will be divided into parts, a rundown of how this began on LolCow and what Shannon was initially accused of, my experience trying to speak with her about this and what has transpired since, a brief summary of Emily's video, her tweets, and our findings together. Key points that I took for her video. Another change in plans from editing Ashley. There's been another update from a person who Shannon was friends with in college. They've created a thread describing their friendship and Shannon's fixation on tearing down Emily. So the part of the video that was initially going to be centered around Emily's follow-up threads will instead be centered around this information, which is second to last next to the outro and my final thoughts of the video. Timestamps will be in the description, and if I can figure out how to make the little fancy time slots in the video itself, those will be there too. If you don't know, Creepshow Art, Shannon, has been accused of making nearly 300 posts from an anonymous account on LolCow that use transphobic, homophobic, and overall just childish and mean language to discuss her friends and many others. LolCow is a website primarily used to gossip about pretty much anybody, but primarily celebrities, YouTubers, anything of the sort. And when you look at their terms and conditions, the rules are pretty clear. I'm putting the rules on screen so you can pause to read them all, but I would like to highlight in general, 2, you may revoke your own anonymity only if your identity is essential to the information that you are providing. Staff will revoke your anonymity if you attempt to deceive LolCow. 3, do not dox any subjects. And in global rules, 9, do not deceptively post about yourself in third person for any reason. Despite being a website that is petty in nature, they are very strict about what they do and do not tolerate, particularly in the department of self-posting and lying about your identity. The admins have access to IP addresses of every user, which multiple admins have come out on Twitter to admit, and we've seen them out those who self-post to spin a false narrative on multiple occasions. The one that comes to mind for me is Edwin's generation and Dasha, who was posting pictures of his girlfriend's passport on LolCow and having conversations with herself to try to spin up a narrative. And over 300 posts, which sounds pretty familiar. He's got videos on his channel elaborating on this, and the admins of LolCow actually reference this in their post outing Creepshow Art for their abusing their system. And not only did Shannon post degrading things about people she knew like on YouTube and such, but she also allegedly doxed her sister. I remember when this happened, and I remembered her posting Instagram stories about it and being distraught. I even remember her messaging our group chat on Instagram telling us, I don't know why they would say I would do this. I would never do something like this. And at the time, none of this could even have been dreamt of. So none of us doubted her, and we're like, oh my gosh, like that's horrible. So this has been going on for a while. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. I've been trying to figure out how to really go about describing my conversations with her when I was really trying to get her to just tell me the truth instead of lying to me about this anymore. I don't feel right sharing our personal conversations without her consent, even though she has literally either blocked our numbers or changed her phone number, because every time we try to text her now, it's just green text message bubbles. So I'm going to put little like bits and pieces of screenshots on screen that I feel like are relevant to back up what I'm saying. Our DMs are still available on Instagram for now, even though she deleted her account, and I'm not quite sure if that's a thing that will always be accessible or if IG will kind of cease to let you view them after a while of her account being gone, but I digress. On June 4th, Shannon posted onto her Instagram story about how her stalker had returned to haunt her. The post no longer appeared to me due to either the account being gone or the story expiring, otherwise I would put the exact story screenshots on screen. The story had said something along the lines of how she wanted to take legal action against Amy, her stalker, and how she probably wouldn't because Amy had children that she didn't want to cause any harm to. This is after she posted about this stalker hacking into her channel and spoofing her IP address to impersonate her. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I've had a lot going on in the last month. Me and my fiance are renovating our house very extensively. I haven't really been paying a lot of attention to people's stories. I have just been kind of rapidly clicking through them. So whenever she posted these, I didn't really look at the details of it, and I just took her word for what it was. To be honest, her story wasn't too unbelievable without any other details that she would later go on to fumble it with. I have seen stalkers do much worse over the years, whether it be to my friends or in stories on the internet that other personalities have shared, but in the stories that followed about her channel being hacked, it started looking really bizarre. I didn't quite realize how weird it looked until looking back on them, but they were weird in the sense that they looked comical and gimmicky, and I even remember having like a fleeting thought that she intentionally put these like glitched out photos as her banner as a joke. I had to get ready for work, so I didn't really pay much more mind to it after I talked to her about it, and I just straight up haven't been watching YouTube or using the app, so any discourse on her channel was completely entirely out of my knowledge. TikTok has ruined my attention span, and I cannot watch videos if they're longer than 60 seconds now. So later that day, I went onto Twitter and I saw Ready to Glare, Julia, sharing a community post that Shannon had talked to me about making to clear up the situation, so I retweeted it on the spot. Full transparency, I stupidly figured that it would just be a reiteration of everything Shannon told me in private, so I didn't read it over, which is on me, and I accept that. If there's anything I've learned in the last week, it's that her public stories weave very different webs than the private ones. It wasn't until about 1 a.m. on the 6th, whenever I was getting ready to close at work, that I went back to Twitter and saw Ready to Glare, then delete her tweet defending Shannon and replace it with I immediately texted Julia, messaged our group chat, and afterward I messaged Shannon asking if she was awake to figure out what had happened. And after not hearing back for a bit, I got with one of our friends and started digging into everything. Shannon didn't respond for a couple of hours, and in the meantime, me and our friend found the thread on screen now and started piecing things together. My initial red flag, because I know nothing about LolCow, was how little damage the hacker had allegedly done to her channel. Let's talk about why I find it incredibly hard to believe that Shannon's YouTube was hacked. Back when Without a Crystal Ball was at her peak of erratic behavior, which is a whole different can of worms, there were multiple attempts to sign into Shannon's personal account. We know this because she would post about it whenever Google notified her of somebody trying to sign in, and if you don't know, Google has a pretty efficient two-step system to protect your account and personal information that requires you to personally verify any sign-in on any other device before allowing access, even with the correct password and email. Google is tied to your YouTube account, which means that any attempted sign-ins to your YouTube would result in an email from Google asking you to approve or deny the admission. Unless this Amy was some highly skilled super hacker who could go undetected through all of that, I don't buy it. And if she was, why would she just change a banner and profile photo? Shannon has never been shy to defend herself or show proof of others trying to get into her account, so I don't understand why there was no trace nor proof of any attempted or successful sign-ins from this stalker that made it past all of the security measures just to change her banner and profile image. I know I keep saying that, but it just it doesn't make sense. Also, to be noted, they conveniently deleted her community tab. If someone's able to hack your YouTube or Google, they can fuck up your monetization, your income, everything by erasing your videos. They can delete your channel. They can see your personal information and destroy everything you've worked on. So why would this dedicated stalker who's been stalking her of nearly 10 years go through all of that work just to change pictures and to delete her community tab? That was my first red flag, and I tried to be gentle with her when asking about it. Everything was still fresh, but after a few hours of searching through the threads, Shannon actually replied to me. It was about 3 a.m. at this point, so it was getting really late, and me and our friend were really tired of going through everything, but I responded to her anyways. I asked her to explain to me what was happening because parts of her story she told me were no longer making sense to me. I let her know that I love her and I support her, but I needed her to be fully honest with me and needed reassurance for our friendship that she was telling me the whole truth so that we could help her clear her name. Added context, I said only clear her name if she had proof she was telling the truth. Some people have taken that out of context and posted about that being me wanting to defend her, even if she wasn't telling the truth, which is not the case. Shannon told me that she hadn't looked at LolCow since last year, but then followed it saying she had the site on a blockchain. I've never heard of that. I'm not tech savvy, so I can't say whether or not that is actually what the description she gave me says it is, but she said she had it on a blockchain for multiple years, which would disable her access to the site after just saying she visited it the year before. And now, many days later, I've been told by another one of our friends that she said as recent as 3 months ago that she was actively browsing her LolCow to see what people were saying about her. And as I'm recording this, her former video editor, which has made a statement on this, messaged me asking me, "Sorry, I was just looking through your tweets again. Shannon told you she was done with LolCow a while ago. She sent me LolCow links for resources for a video that I edited." And that video was not made long ago. Of course, at the time I didn't know any of that. At this point, it was around 4 a.m. Everybody was sleeping, so nobody else was really texting me back, and I continued to ask her about it, which ultimately led to her telling me she didn't know what had changed Ready to Glare's mind, and that she wasn't going to ask her about it or try to figure it out because what's done was done, even though supposedly the last time they talked everything was fine. I don't know about you guys, but I said this to her too. If I was innocent of something I was being accused of and my friend had told me they supported me, but then a couple days later redacted that support from me, I would want to know why. I wouldn't just let it be and let it go and ignore the situation, then run away from it completely. Especially if I was innocent, I would be like, "No, dude, talk to me. Like, what made made you change your mind? I don't know. I don't really want to get into all that because it's not my story to tell, and Julia has released her own video about it. I was really exhausted going back and forth, so I sent her a voice message telling her the best thing to do is try to find the root of the problem with Julia and to know that she can tell me the truth no matter what it is, and I went to bed. I was getting really frustrated that I was essentially creating this pillowed little platform for her to just confess the truth to me on, even with something as little as, yeah, I did it. Even in private, she just couldn't swallow her pride to tell me the truth. The next day, the same conversations occurred over and over, which really started to frustrate me, especially due to the public discourse becoming louder and louder for all of us as her friends. So I flat out asked her about the hacking, and she told me her stalker had taken more from her than just changing the photos, but she wasn't comfortable telling me what it was. This is coming from the same person who has sent me more messages than I can count on both hands with personal information and knowledge of her life that I have no business knowing. This is coming from the same person who sent me her phone number and her personal address very soon after meeting me. I had so many vulnerable late night conversations with her, and Shannon had never been shy with DMing me private information, especially when defending herself against detractors online. So when she claimed that she didn't want to tell me, even though it could have allegedly proven her innocence to not only me, but everybody else attempting to be there for her, it's just insane. This ended up in another back and forth, which led her to telling me to just forget her and not associate with her to prevent people from attacking me online, and frankly, that pissed me off because I was already being attacked online over her. That made me overall just really done with the situation, which I told her, and I let her know she had my number if she needed anything, but I was done with it. After I later found out that Tipster had asked her the same thing, and Shannon told him essentially she didn't trust he wouldn't leak the information despite them being friends, I don't regret bowing out when I did. She never opened my message, and at least 5 of our friends messaged her letting her know that she could vent to them and tell them the truth as well. She didn't respond to them at all. She didn't even open their messages, and then she had the nerve to start posting on her stories that nobody was there for her. She was posting about not having real friends and that nobody believed her and nobody was there for her, literally as her real friends were being completely ghosted by her. And I've seen the messages they tried to send her. They were very gentle, and they were telling her that they were there for her if she needed anything, and she just ignored it. The narrative that she tried to paint on her stories could not have been further from the truth. Since I last spoke to her, she removed herself from our group chat with our friends, and now it's becoming a place where we've all just mourned the loss of somebody that we trusted, and we are constantly finding inconsistencies in her stories and our friendships, whether we like it or not. I think the most damning from our conversation is what I mentioned earlier. The last time I looked at LolCow was last year. I've had it on a blockchain for multiple years and can't visit it. 3 months ago, I actively browsed my own name on LolCow. Her editor today saying that she referenced LolCow posts for their videos. Shortly after all of that, I made my statement on Twitter, some other people did, and then this tweet began circling around. This just needs to be said. This woman has tormented me for years and years. I know her because my ex-boyfriend dated her after me. I moved on, but they continue to harass and stalk me. I'm currently shaking and crying because Creepshow art is finally being exposed for the absolute terrible person she is. I have known Shannon for many years, even years before she started her YouTube channel. She has copied, stalked, harassed, and threatened me and my children's lives. She has used revenge porn against me, tried to use my drug addiction against me, and she has literally gotten me fired from multiple jobs, causing me to be homeless. This person has pushed me to the brink of suicide multiple times and then tried to blame it on a mutual friend when I finally caught her red-handed by tracing her IP. Shannon, you are Amy. All the things you've claimed Amy did to you are things you did to me. Receipts to come, I've got years worth of them. The fact she is saying her stalker did all this to frame her is hilarious because she has literally been making fake Emily Artful accounts all over the internet for years to try to cancel me over the most random shit. What's even more fucked up is she'd fabricate this drama and then make sock puppet accounts posing as a viewer concerned, and then would send me the screenshots that she took when she first started doing YouTube. She would deliberately copy my thumbnails or titles, then message me under a sock puppet saying, "Oh my god, Creepshow art is copying you," egging me on to attack her, but I never did. Very politely asked her to change her title, but also said it's her channel and she can do what she wants with it. She was very nice in response and agreed to change it. Mind you, I still had no idea who she was at this point. Then I guess she went to LolCow to claim Emily Artful is bullying small creators with zero proof because, as I said, I was polite. Then she screenshotted that post and sent it to me under another sock puppet. I didn't put 2 and 2 together for a long time. Something else to know, in the time period between Emily's tweet and her upload, Shannon deleted 12 out of 18 videos in her Storytime series that mentioned her stalker. She privated over 3 million views worth of videos, which is insane. Emily's tweets led to a very anxious few days as Emily compiled her receipts over the years for a video. I feel so bad. She was working night and day trying to edit this thing to get it out as soon as possible, so I think everybody should at the very least go send her some love. Like I said, the video is about 2 hours long, so I suggest taking the time to watch it yourself, as I will not be covering the majority of the details in it. Her video is more or less an expose on the blatant harassment and stalking that Anthony, Shannon's husband, and Emily's ex-boyfriend put her through over the years, and how the tone seemed to shift from a bitter and violent ex to more of a petty and insulting one after Shannon and him began dating. Of course, there is no message that flat out has a confession from either of them, but when you see Anthony on his own personal accounts harassing her, and you read the messages and comments back from sock accounts that immediately followed, it doesn't look too good. In Emily's video, you'll find that Shannon seemingly created her channel modeled after Emily's, even using the same series names, and played dumb to who Emily was, despite literally being in a relationship with her ex, who very loudly vocalized his displeasure about Emily. Of course, that's a really watered down summary of her video, and I highly suggest you just go watch hers to form your own opinions, but what I specifically want to touch on is the end portion of the receipt sharing. A sock account parrots far too much information that no random user could know to try to put the blame on their little brother, which was just an obsessed follower apparently of Emily's. If it was just somebody's little brother who was obsessed with her, they would have had to have been 10 years old when the harassment started. Not to mention, they are pretending to have just created the 2-year-old account with the specific purpose of messaging her, but they have the same username that Shannon described as harassing her with no evidence.
Anyway, back to the original Brita filter message I had received back in 2018. And if you recall, at the beginning of the conversation I had with Shannon, she did mention this account. She said this account specifically had sent her some dirt on me, but she had tried to report it, but then when she went back, they had deleted their account. Well, apparently not. Also, she tried to paint this account as being malicious towards me, but you'll see. Brita Filter says, "Hi Emily, you don't know me, but unfortunately, I know you. I want to explain this as clearly as possible, but it's very difficult for me to get my words out right now with everything I have found and what's going on around me. I don't expect you to reply. I just want you to know what happened, because in a weird way, it does affect you. My brother has been a quote-unquote fan of you for a while now. He has apparently watched all of your videos and has them saved on his computer. There are some of you where you're singing and it's fairly grainy, all the way up to some that I see you are currently posting on YouTube. He has pages and pages of screen names, information on you, and things that I don't think any person should have on someone. Essentially, if you put it out on the internet, he has it. I also found screenshots of when he has harassed you. He made accounts on YouTube years ago pretending to be a girl named Ava, I think she means Aja, but whatever, and bothered you then. I believe he has a list of your past employees, one being an optical shop, and though I am not sure, I believe he might have sent them things about you. He made various Twitters and sent you messages about other people and things that have nothing to do with you. He even started reaching out to various people, followers of you on YouTube and Instagram with quote-unquote proof that you buy subscribers. I know via screenshots that he sent these with little notes on them. If I had known about this sooner, I would have stopped it sooner, but unfortunately, our family has some communication problems. In this modern age, it's hard to find a reason to check someone else's computer for anything, but I think my parents should have been more attentive with that. I was using his computer for schoolwork and found everything. Even videos of you in a bathtub, which I thought as inappropriate, and I truly don't understand how he got those. I took the laptop and showed the information to my family, and we have all decided it is in his best interest to go to a mental health facility and be cut off from this. I don't know what else I can say, but I am sorry. He was and is a kid, and is currently only 15. I don't know when you started posting or what he first saw of you, but for some reason, you became his fixation. He is going to be receiving help and counseling, and we are going to be spending thousands of dollars to figure this out. I refuse to let this happen to any other woman. I am sorry for doing this anonymously, but because my brother is a child, my parents have told me not to speak out about this with anyone else outside of family. I know that must be inherently frustrating for you, but it's important to me that you at least know that this problem was seen and will be taken care of. If there is anything else you want to know, please don't hesitate to ask. I only made this account to let you know what is going on, because I felt that it was close to criminal for you to not know about something that so dearly affects you. I know when I was being harassed online at the age of 13, my trust in people went down because I couldn't know who did it. I want to tell you it was my brother, a boy you don't know, who at a very young age found you online and became obsessed. There is no other way to say it. He became obsessed. I hope that eases your mind and your heart, and I hope you have a beautiful life again. If you need anything else, let me know. I said, would you be able to do me a favor, so I know this is all real? I need to see/talk to you on video chat, Snapchat, Instagram, Skype, it doesn't matter. Because all this information seems suspicious to me. It's exactly what's happened to me to a T. Obviously with a huge handful of things missing and some things that I didn't even know that they had on me. And I find it very strange that all this information would be in one place, especially some of the more personal things, like him getting me fired from my job. Unless he specifically wrote that down somewhere, which would also be strange, I just find it unusual. Also, this has been happening for 5 years. I just find all this hard to believe that a 10-year-old would do what quote unquote he did back then. I find it all hard to believe, especially because I know it's you, Andrew, and I don't think you can fulfill my video chat request. And I've already decided I'm not going to take this anymore. I can't be held down by my past mistakes. I've worked hard to improve myself as a person and on my mental health. I needed to be a better person. I am a better person because of my mistakes. You can't hurt me anymore. Brita Filter says, if you don't believe me, that is okay, because of what has happened and the legality of it all. My parents are not comfortable with that, but I understand your issues. I hope you find peace, and I am glad you've moved beyond this. Personally, I am sorry that this has happened to you, and I wish you nothing but the greatest success. As for how we know he got you fired and information of the like, he has a video of you crying where you state someone got you fired and text documents of him taking credit for it. Though I doubt I will be able to convince you that this is legitimate, I do hope that you find peace with this, and I understand the trust is not here. If I could Skype with you without risk, I would, but according to my parents, that is a risk they don't want me taking. Meanwhile, I hope you know these were not your mistakes. These were my brother's, and he will be paying for them. You didn't and do not deserve to pay for my brother's misgivings. This will most likely be my last time using this account. I do appreciate your time, and I hope from the bottom of my heart and soul that you continue to do well. I pray you are able to forgive those in your life, and I know you will continue to thrive. Thank you for at least listening to what I've had to say and letting me know that words have gotten to you. God bless. What a ripe crock of
After watching her video, I realized a few things that could potentially back up her theory that the two of them worked together, and I really wish that I'd messaged her before she released her video. But either way, she posted another thread with additional receipts. As you can see here, this is a thread of a lot more receipts, and I did give her permission to put my messages in here that you will see. My first message to her read, "Hey, I just realized something that adds even more to your story. I'm not sure if you know this, but myself and multiple others can confirm that Shannon and Anthony share a phone and have for a long time, if not always. I've only known her for a year and some change." She told us this herself on multiple occasions. And this is something that after I posted a screenshot of a text conversation where she does mention that they do still share a phone, a couple of people commented saying that they remembered her mentioning it in videos. I personally don't even know where to begin to look for a video that mentions that to have it in her own voice, but if you so happen to find one, please leave it down below. Like I said in the introduction, a former classmate and friend of Shannon's has come forward with more information that I feel is far too important to leave out of this video. If the audio is a little bit different here, it's because it is about 3 in the morning now, and I am just popping back into this after pretty much being done with the video, just to add this in. Kevin's thread reads, "I never thought I'd find myself related to a situation like this, but I'm absolutely in the business of holding people accountable for their actions. So I'd like to share what I know about the situation between Creepshow Art and Emily Artful. In the interest of preventing doxing, I'm not going to include any information that might put some in danger, but if it becomes necessary for either a court case or if things get wildly out of control, I can provide more specifics. I met Shannon my freshman year of college in 2011. We shared an English class and worked on a group project together. Outside of that, at the time, we didn't have much contact. I ended up leaving that school and attending a community college that was close to my hometown. At school, I ended up meeting my abuser, and she ended up completely separating me from my entire support group, and I lost nearly all of my friends. There was a period of a few months where my abuser and I broke up, and this is when I reconnected with Shannon. Shannon ended up at the same community college, saw me on campus, and stopped me to say hi. I was desperate to make new friends, so this seemed like a blessing. She was fine at the beginning. We just hang out and share music, but she became concerning very quickly. It started with her introducing me to Anthony's music. She told me that he was her ex, and they were still in a sexual relationship. The way he treated her seemed very unhealthy, and I told her as such, but Shannon was insistent that he was good for her. Eventually, she shared one of Anthony's music videos that featured Emily and told me that Emily was also Anthony's ex. Shannon told me that Emily was crazy and Anthony only kept her around because she was a a good singer, among other things. For the next while, every time Shannon and I would hang out, she would fixate entirely on Emily. She'd point out all of what she perceived as Emily's flaws. We would talk about how all of her tattoos were related to Anthony somehow, everything she could do to put her down. I thought it was strange to fixate so much on an ex's ex, but I was desperate for anyone to help me out of the situation that I was in, so I ignored a lot of the red flags. I haven't really been able to forgive myself for that, especially considering what came next. Shannon began to cyberstalk Emily, first starting by finding her YouTube page. She shared videos with me, and I naively thought that was harmless and it would go no further, but Shannon started looking for her home address, her phone number, or any other info she could find. And that's pretty interesting considering Shannon claimed to not know who Emily was before they interacted. Shannon told me how she had plans to harass Emily, either by sending her letters or prank calling her home, how she planned to leave hate messages on her videos or DM her from burner accounts to spread hate. This is why I began to distance myself from Shannon. The distance led me back to my abuser, which is a different story, but one of my last interactions with Shannon was her proudly showing me that Emily had posted a video about her closing her YouTube channel because of the harassment she'd been receiving. Emily talked about how much it hurt to lose something that was important to her, but she was so anxious and in pain from the targeted harassment that she couldn't continue. It was at that point that I began to cut Shannon off. I felt guilty since that day that I didn't do anything sooner, that I didn't go to the police with what I knew, or at least attempt to talk to Shannon to tell her what she was doing wasn't okay, but I was battling my own demons and none of that seemed like an option. Over the years, I would occasionally receive cryptic messages from Shannon at weird hours of the night, usually just a single emoji or a strangely written greeting. This caused me to block her on most of my social media. Since then, I've deleted or rebranded my online presence to avoid my abuser, but about a year ago, Shannon found all of my new accounts and added me with no contact. I used this as an opportunity to confront her for what she did, screenshots of what in the next tweet. I made it a habit to screenshot my actions because my abuser had recently begun to spread incredibly harmful rumors about me. I don't have screenshots of her response because her account has been deleted, but I requested my data from Twitter today to see if I can get it. So I am not going to read all of this because it's very long, but I'm going to read the most important parts in my opinion, which is essentially just whenever he's describing to her what she did during their friendship and why it was wrong. When we last talked, we engaged in some very concerning behavior. I was in a really dark place from Victoria and you were basically my only friend, so I just ignored how bad everything was, and that was very wrong of me. What began as what appeared at the time a fun little thing to learn more about somebody you had tangential connections with quickly developed into cyberstalking, bullying, and harassment. What happened was not okay, and I should have said something sooner. I should have said something at the time, but I didn't, and that has really weighed on me over the years. So I guess I'm saying something now. We were younger and dumber, but we still should have known better. It seems a lot of your content is focused on calling people out who have had similar behavior, and I hope that's a sign that you've changed for the better. And then more towards the end, he mentions that because of a kind of trauma response from his previous abuser, that he might have a heightened paranoia to potentially being cyberstalked or harassed by Shannon as well. He says, I know I've rebranded my social media presence after we stopped talking, so I feel like to find me, you'd have to actively be looking for me, or you've been keeping tabs on me ever since, and either situation sets off a whole lot of alarms in my head. I'm not accusing you of doing anything malicious, I'm accusing me of paranoia, but I'm still concerned. And then he wishes her well even through everything, and mentions that it's very stressful to have people from that part of his life currently in it, which I completely understand. He then continues, Victoria referenced in that screenshot is my abuser. I use language that indicates myself in the past actions because I was afraid of her targeting me if she hadn't changed, and I just came out completely confronting her. Shannon's response was to brush off accountability, saying we were just dumb kids. She also insisted that she found me naturally, which didn't make sense as we had no similar circles and I had an even smaller following back then. She immediately said she would block me so I didn't have to be concerned about her, which didn't seem like an action a guiltless person would take. I thought it was over. I didn't know how much she was doing to hurt other people. To be frank with everybody, I guess it's like a bitter irony that even back then she was saying, oh, don't be concerned about me, I'll block you so you don't have to worry about me kind of thing. It just seems a little familiar to what she's doing today. It seems like she never really changed from when I knew her. My heart goes out to everybody she hurt and everyone who thought they could trust her. This is such a terrible situation. If anybody needs an ear, please feel free to reach out. If it becomes necessary, I can reopen my Facebook and try to download the data there, as I believe I have further evidence of Shannon's behavior, but I hope this chapter can close and people can find some way to heal from the damage she's caused. 100 out of 10 would suggest definitely trying to reopen Facebook to try to get that, because I think it's very important. This entire situation over Shannon thus far has been speculation. It's been circumstantial evidence, all personal opinions aside. So if this person has the potential to end that, that's insane. This entire situation has been a never-ending train wreck from the moment that it began. The more that I sit on it, the more I just feel stupid. I feel played, I feel lied to, and like the person that I thought I was friends with never really existed. One day she was in my life and we were talking and having fun, and the next day she was just gone. I feel guilty because I don't think that I would be at the subscriber count that I am right now without Shannon's help. I feel guilty because she sent me presents and listened to me when I needed it most. And I feel guilty because she helped draw the attention of the FBI to the investigation into my rape. My first interaction with Shannon was on my first live stream with YouTubers, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous to talk to any of them, and I expressed that, and I even said something along the lines of, it was just something kind of self-deprecating, like, oh, who am I compared to you guys? And Shannon stopped me. She stopped everybody from talking, and she told me that I should never say that again, and that I have a voice, and she expressed so much support from me.
Hey, you're a badass. Did you know that? Like, are you aware right now that you're a badass?
Thank you.
It's like,
appreciate it.
First things first, you started with like, who's my voice compared to you guys? Never say that ever again, because you have the loudest voice out of all of us, and your voice matters the most. You do have a voice, because without you, me, Tamimi, Edwin, Keemstar, like nobody could say anything, because people like you are coming forward, and that takes so much strength, dude. Like, you have my respect. You have respect of everyone in this fucking chat. And if you don't have their respect, then I'm going to drop kick them. Like, that's stupid. You're a badass, first and foremost.
And now it sucks that I'm using that voice to describe what she's done. And I don't want to get, of course, now that at the very end, when I'm concluding this, emotions start kind of going haywire. I am so excited to be done with this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't really want to be on Twitter anymore after this. Don't hold me to that, because you know, people say they're going to be off Twitter, then they go back 5 minutes later. But the amount of stress that this has caused is just monumental. As this was developing, I felt so sick. I had this constant feeling of nausea, and when Emily posted her tweets, I just felt like there was something in my throat all day. And no matter how guilty I feel over all the nice things that she's done to me, the sadness for everybody else affected by her actions and those threads and what Emily's had to go through outweighs that by far. A person who does kind things is not always a good person, and that's something that I have to remember, because while I have fond memories of her, I cannot in any way stand by the horrible things that she's been accused of. I'm not kidding when I say that every day, all of us find more and more inconsistencies in our friendship and things that just don't make sense. Links to all the other videos and important information will be down below. My heart goes out to Emily and all of our friends, and if you made it this far, thank you for listening. I don't feel like this is an appropriate video to end this with one of those like and subscribe whatever kind of spiels in, so I'm just gonna end it here. Thank you guys.